Hello, my dear friends. You're in the voice coding channel. All in all, I've got more than 900 Dragon macros. Not all of them are related to programming, but many are. In this video, I'm going to show some of the more interesting ones. Some of the macro and vocabulary basics were explained in previous macros. If you're new to Dragon, I'll recommend watching these first. As I'm primarily using Visual Studio, devenv, not VS Code, many macros are specific to this product. Most of the shown macros are using my keyboard mappings, so you'll probably have to adapt some to your environment, but the general principles still apply. As shown in the previous macros, I'm using a reverse naming structure to organize the macros. The general area comes first, followed by the specific function. In the following, I'm using XML format to visualize the macros. You can produce this format yourself by exporting the macros. Open Command Browser. You have to go to Management mode, select all commands, go to Manage, Export, choose any file name, and most importantly, you have to choose the XML format here. So, okay, that's it. I'm not going into the details of this format here because I'm hoping that the following examples will speak for themselves. Let me know if you had any problems with this. This is a simple but helpful macro. It creates a breakpoint at the current location and presses F5 to start or continue running. Unbreak run. The next one is for showing the Visual Studio variables panels. It activates the locals and autos panels, but the autos panel needs a sequence of keystrokes. Unbreak run. Debug variables. This macro inserts text at the current position. Dot to upper. Such macros can be used to quickly insert text without resorting to snippets. Let's continue with more complex macros. This macro selects a complete code block. It can be applied to any block like method, if statement, class, or namespace. It assumes that the curly brace is at the line end. Please note that it selects full lines and switches the cursor position, the anchor, back to the beginning while keeping the selection. Source block. It is using the SendKeys method, which we already explained in previous videos. Let's dissect the details. The first statement goes to the end of the line. The next one is a control bracket key. It goes to the matching bracket. The next one is shift control bracket. It selects everything within these braces. The next one is Alt Shift E, which is bound to expand selection to entire line. So it selects the complete line. Then it does some cleanup, goes to the beginning of the line, goes down and presses Ctrl K, Ctrl A to swap the anchor. As a result, the complete block is selected as full lines. Let's show another one. Quite often we have to search something in all open files. Normally one would open Visual Studio Advanced Find, click through the available options, and then enter and search the criteria. By using this macro, this becomes easier and faster. Studio Find open. It is a step-by-step macro using control keys and type text, which we already explained in previous videos. Let's dissect the details. The first statement opens the advanced find dialog or panel. The next one selects look in, the drop-down field. The next one types all open into this field. Then a tabulator key goes out of the field. And finally, Ctrl-Shift-F focuses the input field again so that we can enter our search criteria. The next macro is for SQL. It is using text insertion with SendKeys. Such macros can be used in any environment like Visual Studio, SQL Command, remote sessions, or other tools. Auto text macros, as shown in previous videos, could be used too, but these don't work in all environments. SQL select my-table, semicolon. You might note that the macro is not named SQL select, but SQL select. This is one of the tricks to improve recognition and make pronunciation easier and faster. In previous videos, I already did show commands with lists. I'll briefly show another example here. It's a macro which inserts some slightly advanced statements into the source and positions the cursor after insertion. The example is using Cobasoft log, a very fast, secure and convenient logging library which I wrote. You'll find a link in the description of this video. In the same location, you'll also find the demo project which you used today. Log.verbose. Two quotes. This is a test. It is using the word dot to represent the dot between class and method names. And it is using a list for the method names. But then it does not use the recognition results from the list directly, but uses some logic to convert them into the intended form. It finally adds a SendKeys left statement to move the cursor into the parentheses. Regular expressions can be somewhat complicated, so I wrote various macros to insert them without effort. This is one of them. regex2 identifiers. Regex is no normal word. I defined it like this. Open vocabulary editor. You might already know Visual Studio snippets. They are found under Tools/Code Snippet Manager. There are many predefined snippets grouped by language or environment, but you can also define your own. As you might expect, I already defined a lot of these for me. Even without speech-to-text systems, they make a programmer's life easier. This example has two parts. The upper part contains the Dragon macro definition. The lower part contains the Visual Studio snippet definition. Let me show this in action. State if not null. For most of the C# control and loop statements, I define such macros. Let me show another one, which combines macros and snippets. It is using a special feature of snippets where the user enters a value and this is then used in multiple places. It also shows how to position the cursor after snippet expansion. Again, this page has two parts, macro and snippet. Let me show an example. Log.data, log.caller member, state name value. And finally, let me show a more advanced macro, which is not specific to Visual Studio, but can be used for all kinds of purposes. It consists of two parts, the outer looping macro and the inner executing macro. Both macros share a funny name, hippopotamus. This is intentional so that they are not triggered during normal dictation. If you're a biologist, though, you might use different names. The outer looping macro has a list as part of the name. The list defines the numbers from 1 to 20 so that these can be used during dictation. The inner macro usually is rewritten for specific tasks. It can contain all Dragon features as required. When writing a new inner macro for a specific task, you have to test it first, step by step, until it's working okay for a single instance. Then you run the loop macro until the work is finished. Let's show an example. Hippopotamus. Hippopotamus loop 5. The inner macro is meant to be redefined for whatever the current task requires. The outer macro will stay unchanged. This combination of macros is quite handy for automating boring, dull or tedious tasks. That's all for this video. Let me know your opinions and ideas. Thank you for watching. Put your likes, subscribe to my channel and have a good day. Bye bye.